Hi, everyone. Welcome back. If you've been struggling with the complex and often painful question of how do I maintain contact with my toxic parents, you're in the right place. Navigating the relationship with toxic parents can feel like walking a tightrope. I mean, seriously. But today, I want to share some strategies, some insights, and some encouragement to help you handle this delicate situation with care while also protecting your emotional well-being. If you're new to the channel, welcome. It's an honor to have you join us. I'm Kerri McKenna Reece. I'm a trauma recovery coach, supervisor, accredited certified complex trauma instructor, and a mentor. And I've dedicated my life to helping others navigate the pain and complexity of relationships shaped by trauma because I've been there myself. So before we get into practical strategies, it's important that I clarify what I mean by toxic parents. These are parents whose behavior, whether intentional or not, cause emotional, mental, or physical harm to you. This could include manipulation, control, constant criticism or neglect. Maybe they pay little or no attention to you, disregarding you and your needs until you want something. I've had so many clients share stories with me about how their parents belittle, criticize, or undermine them, pulling them back into the same unhealthy dynamic that they endured growing up. Sometimes the siblings are involved with parents pitting siblings against each other. And they've worked really hard to set boundaries with their parents. They've even significantly reduced contact with them over the years. But now their parents are aging and they don't have anyone else in their life. So as their child, they feel this deep nagging sense of responsibility to take care of their parents. And they feel like they have to maintain some kind of relationship with them. Cutting ties with family, going no contact, especially with parents, isn't a choice for everyone. Not everybody feels they can make it. It's not an easy decision at all. It's a very complex dilemma. It wasn't easy for me to make that decision when it came to my mother and brothers, but it was truly the best choice for me. It completely changed my life for the better. However, I do recognize that it's not for everyone. So for those of you that want to maintain a connection and feel that's the best, it requires thoughtful, really careful boundaries in your relationship with your parents. You want to know what those boundaries will look like. You have to carefully think it through. What do you want the family dynamic to be for you, right? It's a deeply personal decision, and it's important that you understand why you want that connection. So sit in silence and ask yourself, why do I keep this connection? Is it out of guilt or obligation? Do I genuinely want improvement in the relationship? Or am I maintaining contact for the sake of my children or other family members, hoping that it might somehow improve the relationship overall and lead my parents to respect and value me? Now, there's no right or wrong answer, but being honest with yourself can help you navigate the relationship more intentionally. Knowing why you want to keep that connection will also make it easier to establish boundaries that align with your emotional well-being and goals for the relationship. Your reasons, they don't have to make any sense to anyone else. They just need to honor and feel right to you. I say all this because when we're children, our parents, they're the leaders in the household. They hold the authority and they set the tone for the family. And as children, we follow. And in toxic homes, households that are shaped by complex trauma, this structure becomes rigid and unhealthy. Parents often demand total submission, punishing us for any attempt at questioning or challenging their behavior. The unspoken rule in a toxic home is very clear. It's don't rock the boat. We're the parents. What we say goes, and you will fall in line and follow, or you will suffer the consequences. But growing up in these environments, survival often means silence and compliance. The bigger issue, though, is that these patterns from childhood, they don't simply vanish as we grow older. When we interact with our parents as adults, we find ourselves slipping back into the same old habits and mindsets. We unconsciously fall in line, let our parents lead, allow them to set the terms of the relationship while we quietly follow and suffer. And this is because our nervous system is wired to the chaos of the past. Growing up with toxic parents, we were always seeking safety, right? We want to belong in the family, but we also have to seek a sense of safety because we feel so unsafe all the time. So we just fall in line to feel safe, to feel wanted, to feel accepted. But here's the powerful truth. As an adult, you don't have to play that role anymore. You have the ability and the right to take the lead in your own life in every relationship, including the relationship with your parents. You can take the lead, you can set boundaries to protect your peace, and you can do that without sacrificing your self respect. So, maintaining contact with toxic parents doesn't mean you have to sit back and wait patiently in hopes that one day they'll come around and they'll change. You don't need to tolerate being treated badly or endure any harm. What you need is to set some boundaries. And boundaries, those are limits that we set to protect our emotional well-being, our mental health, and our overall sense of self-respect. They're not about controlling the other person because that's toxic in its own. Boundaries are about taking responsibility for ourselves, our actions, emotions, and choices. It's our way of teaching other people how to properly love us. That's exactly what boundaries are. Think of them as like fences around your personal space. They're not walls because we don't want to shut people out. They're guidelines that say this is what's okay and this is what is not. Now, I'm not saying all this to make it sound like it's easy. There is difficulty involved, but it doesn't mean that you can't set rules. You absolutely can. You get to decide what's healthy for you and what isn't. No one else. You don't have to follow the patterns of the past, especially if they don't serve your well-being or your family in a healthy way. So you can redefine the relationship on your terms. It's like it's reclaiming or stepping into your power, stepping out of old patterns and behaviors and choosing to lead with strength and clarity. And when you do, you're not just setting boundaries, you're creating space for the life you deserve, right? One where you are no longer bound by the rules of your parents or an unhealthy past. So let's get started. First, take some time to reflect on what triggers you in your relationship with your parents. Is it certain topics of conversation or specific behaviors that they do or say? Uh, Things they continue to sweep under the rug, maybe? Once you've identified these, it's not being harsh or disrespectful. It means setting clear, firm boundaries on how you will be treated, right? So, for example, if your parents constantly criticize you, you might say, I'm open to feedback from you, but I need it to be constructive and respectful. If they bring up topics that stress you out, you can redirect by saying, I'd rather not discuss this. Let's talk about something else. You might set expectations by saying, I'm happy to visit, but if you make hurtful comments or take jabs at me, I will need to leave. Or if our phone conversation becomes disrespectful, I'll have to end the call. If they dismiss or deny a serious situation that you cannot overlook and will not lie about, you could say, I'm hurt that you choose to ignore this and act like it didn't happen. It's important I honor myself and stand in my truth. So I won't cover it up and allow anyone else to suffer. If the topic arises and it's directed towards me, I kindly ask you to honor yourself as well by removing yourself from the conversation. So setting boundaries, it may feel uncomfortable. I mean, I say them and it sounds really easy, but they're going to feel uncomfortable. But it's vital. It's a vital step forward creating a healthier dynamic for you. And I also want to talk about guilt here because as you begin to set boundaries, you're going to feel guilt. It's natural to feel guilty. You may feel like the bad child, as if you're hurting your parents. But this guilt is false guilt. You're not being disrespectful, unkind, or evil. You're an adult doing what's healthy for you. And the guilt you feel is rooted in what you were taught as a child about love, respect, and obedience. Many toxic parents teach their children that love means doing whatever the parent wants, even at the child's expense. They instill this belief that enduring harm without protest is a form of loyalty or love, and it definitely is not. But now, as an adult, those childhood lessons are what you know. They are fibers of your being. So when you stand up for yourself and you set boundaries, you feel guilty for choosing health and self-respect. That guilt, it stems from a conscious that was conditioned by your upbringing, not from an actual wrongdoing. So this isn't about being a bad child or dishonoring your parents. It's about being a responsible adult who is taking care of yourself, the soul that you've been blessed with, and your mental health. Honoring your parents doesn't mean tolerating abuse or disrespect. It means creating a relationship that is as healthy as possible within the circumstances. Part of recovery is reparenting yourself. You must retrain a conscience that was poorly shaped by parents who didn't teach you to honor yourself, to listen to your instincts or establish boundaries. I mean, that would be incredible if we were all taught that, and it was really taught and forced even more in schools. When you feel guilty setting these boundaries, understand that it's just your limbic brain being triggered. This is your brain reacting the same way it did in your childhood. It's saying, I feel guilty. I need to go back and do whatever my parents want so I'm safe here and I'm accepted. Recognize this is an emotional echo from the past, not an indication that you're doing something wrong now. And it's going to take some time to make peace with these feelings. But as you consistently practice setting boundaries and honoring yourself, you'll begin to reshape your conscious and you'll teach yourself what healthy love, respect, and self-worth looks like. Okay, now the way you communicate can make a difference as well. Using I statements, for instance, this is so important. Instead of saying, you're always so critical, try saying, I feel hurt when I hear critical comments from you. This shifts the focus to your feelings rather than placing the blame. While they may respond dismissively or even criticize you for expressing your emotions, because in toxic families that's common. But the key here is that you're addressing the issue in a calm, non-confrontational way. This approach subtly shifts the responsibility back to them. It takes them off guard and encourages self-reflection on their part. Another important thing is to stay calm. Toxic parents tend to push your buttons, but staying calm helps you maintain control of the conversation. Take the time to pause and take a deep breath if you feel yourself getting worked up. Then choose to respond in a way that honors both of you. You also have to pick your battles. Not every issue is worth addressing. Don't drink the poison if you don't have to. Sometimes it's okay to let minor things slide to preserve your peace of mind. You can also limit the time you interact with them. It's okay to decide how often or for how long you engage with them. Maybe it's short phone calls instead of long visits. It can also be helpful to have an exit plan if conversations become too heated or overwhelming. Have a polite but firm way to step away. You can say something on the lines of, I need to go now, but we can talk later. Exit plans are extremely healthy form of communication. They truly are. Communicating with toxic parents can be totally exhausting. I know this from personal experience. Self-care was an absolute essential in my childhood, and it remains a non-negotiable for me today. In some cases, despite our best efforts, your parents may not change. If circumstances require you to maintain contact, preparation is key. So before visiting, remind yourself that they may continue their usual behavior. They may make hurtful comments or try to push your buttons. Expect it, actually, right? Expect it, but go in with the mindset of, I don't have to take the bait. I don't have to react the way I did in the past. I can respond in a way that honors both them and myself. And then prepare new ways to respond when they act in ways that are unkind or disrespectful. Stay quiet and let their words pass. Change the subject to something neutral. Firmly but calmly say, I understand this is important to you, but this topic is off the table for me. I use that one a lot. Leave the room temporarily to regroup and honor your needs for space, or use some of the examples I shared earlier. Remember, you are in control of how you respond, and you get to decide what works best for your emotional well-being. You can also place limits on how often you visit, how long you stay, or how frequently you take or make phone calls to them. These boundaries allow you to maintain the relationship on your terms. It's also very important that you prioritize your self-care, right? Seek support where you need to. Talk to a coach or join a support group locally or online. Sharing your experiences with others who understand can be incredibly validating and healing. Another great piece of self-care is to practice mindfulness. Sit in silence with yourself and journal, meditate, or do some deep breathing. All of these can help you manage the stress and emotions that come when interacting with toxic people. Sitting in silence, it allows you the space to connect to the deepest part of you. It allows you to nurture your own soul. As I've said many times, cutting off an abusive parent is better than continuing abuse. But those are not the only two options. If you want a healthier relationship with your parents, you need to take the initiative. Introduce healthier interactions and set clear boundaries. If your parents respond positively, that's wonderful. It may pave the way for a more respectful, mutual, supportive relationship. However, if they don't respond well, that's their choice, and you may need to set firmer boundaries, which could impact the relationship. If maintaining contact consistently harms your mental health, it's okay to reevaluate. Cutting ties isn't the only option, but your well-being must come first. So it may have to happen. Introduce healthier interactions and see how your parents respond. If they respect your boundaries, that's a step towards a more positive relationship. If not, you may need to set firmer boundaries or reconsider contact altogether. Maintaining contact with toxic parents is a journey. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but by taking the lead and setting boundaries and managing your emotions, you're not only reclaiming your power and building a life where you are no longer controlled by the unhealthy patterns of the past, you're choosing to love and honor yourself. And that's the most important relationship of all, right? If this topic resonated with you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content on personal growth and navigating challenging relationships. And if you have any tips or experiences to share, drop them in the comments below. Let's support each other. Remember, you have the power to choose how you engage with your parents while honoring your worth and well-being. Thank you for watching. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve peace in your life. See you in the next video.